Welcome to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Rachele Brooke Smith.
And I'm Emilio Palafox.
And today we have the one, the only Mike C-roc. So Mike C-roc is the co-founder of Blueprinted and the best-selling author of Rocket Fuel. He has been featured by Yahoo Finance as one of the top business leaders to follow in 2020 and is on a mission to build people.
Now, C-roc is driven to inspire others, and he measures his success on how he is able to help others achieve greatness. C-roc had a fire lit in him at an early age. That fire has ignited him with a fierce desire to compel people to see the greatness inside themselves, using past life events to fuel their fire. C-roc currently resides in Ocean City, Maryland, with his wife, Jennifer, of 18 years, and their two wonderful children, Nicholas and Sophia. We're so excited to have them on the show, or to have Mike C-roc on the show. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you for having me, guys. It's so awesome to be here. And I like to start every interview with gratitude, because it means the world to me to have the opportunity to come on shows like this. And I want to also offer gratitude to anybody listening for showing up, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I love that. Of course, says so much to who you are and why we're so stoked to have you on the show. And really just diving deep right now, right into it. You talk a lot about this passion that you have to help people believe in themselves. And we both resonate with that so much, right? The belief and the ability that people have to overcome anything that they're facing. Where did that come from? Like, how did you get it, and how can you help other people find it?
Jumping right in.
You know, it really came from being around a lot of broken people growing up. You know, drug addicts, alcoholics, people suffering from anxiety, depression. My grandmother committed suicide, abuse from my stepmother, like a lot of things I was around, and I just wasn't okay with it. And I didn't want to accept what I was seeing and accept the BS that they were telling themselves in their own brains. And so I've always been on this journey just to try to help people see the right side of things. And I say right, I'm not talking about necessarily correct, but like the best way to live, you know? And so that's where it stemmed from. And my whole life, I've just been building upon this. And when I was 3 or 4 years old, I remember my mom telling me that I was going to be a leader one day, and that I inspired her so much. And I think that was programmed into me at a young age, so that everything I just did was always going in that direction.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it just speaks to all the parents out there right now. It's like, it's so crazy how we have to be so careful with like our thoughts, our words, our actions, and be so conscious of it these days, because it transfers to the kids. And I think, I think every parent is trying to do their best, but hopefully we're on a journey to, like you would say, using your past experiences, hopefully not taking any kind of negative things that past generations have given to those parents, but, to be kind of conscious along this self-development journey to, as you would say, take those, whether it's negative or positive experiences, and really convert that into rocket fuel. Love that. This is his new book, by the way, Rocket Fuel. Go check it out.
So good.
But I think those listening that are parents, it's so key right now in the world that we live in right now to be really conscious of those things, right? And so we'll just jump right into it, right? Because that's a main thing here. And I think we need to talk about it so much on the show. What were some key moments in your life? And you alluded to a lot of things happening in your upbringing, but some key moments that you really looked back and said, you know what? This is what's really going to fuel me to go to the next level. Like, what were some of those for you that you can share with our listeners?
The first one that I can remember, I grew up in a broken home. I don't remember my family together. My parents, I just always known them split up. And I did the every other weekend thing, like a lot of people that have dealt with divorce. And I would live with my mom until I was 8 and go to my dad's every other weekend. But there was a lot of conflict with child support battles, custody battles. My dad had an issue with letting up any money for it was just a mess. And I'm hearing all this as a kid, right? And then you add step parents into the mix. And that just adds another ingredient in this pot of just confusion and chaos for a kid. When I turned 8, I decided that, my mom was getting ready to move on to her third marriage. And I just didn't want to move into another man's house, learn another man's rules. Keeping the story short, my stepfather, who that ended up being, George, was a great man. And he actually stepped in to be my father when I was 11. So I didn't know that at the time. I moved in with my dad from 8 to 11. He was moving on to his second wife. And everything seemed great at first. My mom's heart was broken, by the way. She later told me that she cried herself to sleep at night a lot of times. But she let me go. She let me go do it and try to figure it out. And for 3 years, I dealt with abuse, psychological, mental threats. my stepmom and my mom had issues, I guess, and it was taking on a lot on me. And I was, a lot of times when there's divorce, you're the only connection for the people to have to talk and communicate to each other. Sometimes otherwise people could just go off on their own lives. And so that's, a pressure point, right?
Yeah.
So I used to sleep with my dad at night a lot of times because I was afraid of the things I was hearing. And so I became in a situation where I thought abuse was normal, like the situation was normal. I just thought this is the way it is. And finally I started to realize, like, wait a minute, this isn't normal. Something's wrong here. And I need to get out of here. And so I had my mom file court papers. She said that if I do that, I can't leave her out on a limb. I need to stick to my guns. And I started developing this stubbornness inside of me, which I love now.
Yeah.
If you're stubborn on the right things, it's right. If it's on the wrong things, it's wrong. But she said, if I do file these court papers, you need to stick to your guns because they're going to try to talk you out of it. They're going to try to talk you in life, Mikey. When you believe in something, she said, people will try to talk you out of it to match their own agenda. Or if they see you elevating, they're going to want to pull you back. And, people generally in a like lower mindset want to pull people back because to them it's pleasurable. People seek pleasure and it's pleasurable to pull people back. And so she made me aware of that at that moment. So anyway, my dad finally got the court papers served to him after me coming home from school daily, just waiting for them to, be delivered. And that day, the tension in the room was ridiculous, man. I could feel it. I knew something was up. And so I was about 10 and a half years old. And I walked in and he had these papers in his hand. Now, my dad, I point back here for those of you watching, there's a brick wall behind me. My dad was a mason. He had a very successful business. I loved my dad, man. He was my hero. He had these big forearms and rough hands from hard work. And if anybody knows about Italian people and construction workers, they don't carry a wallet. They carry a wad of $100 bills around with them with a rubber band around it. So he always used to flash that. I thought that was the coolest thing. So when he confronted me about the papers and said, it looks like you want to move in with your mom, he reminded me how poor my mom was. He reminded me that she had men coming in and out and she was on to her third marriage and nothing a kid should hear. And then he said, I don't understand this. Why do you want to leave? Now, I didn't get into discussion with him because I wanted to stick to my guns. So I said, nope, I made my mind up. He said, okay, if that's the case, you're going to need this. And he took this wad of $100 bills out, peeled one off, and he crumpled it up and said, you're going to need this when you're living on the streets with your mother one day. And he threw it at me.
Wow.
And at that moment, I felt like wait, my hero's giving up on me. Like, what is going on? But then, and I also thought to myself, like, what have I done? It's one of those feelings like, should I have said anything about the abuse? Should I have said anything about this? And then my stubbornness kicked in and I'm like, okay, he's not going to dictate my future. I'm going to do this. I got this. And so a little spark was lit at that moment. And then it began to flame and flame and flame and get stronger and stronger. And for 30 some years, I fueled off of that moment because every time things got tough, I wasn't going to let him win. And if it got great and I wanted to take it to the next level, I remembered that, like, I can't let this slip. I got to keep going. Yeah. And so that's the primary moment in my life where I've turned something into rocket fuel subconsciously for 30 some years. And then more consciously about 2 years ago. There's been many more, but they're in the book and I can talk more about them later. But that's the big one.
I love it, brother. Thank you for sharing, man. There's a lot of similar things that you just described from my past. And I think, first of all, I honor and respect you and any man that is able to speak about their past, talk about their thoughts, feelings, emotions during that time, throughout the journey, right? The vulnerability being a strength. I think we just need to share that more often. So just honor and respect you for doing that, first of all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I think so many people need to hear that, because they might have been in a similar situation, and I feel like more and more, I think the biggest thing in life is to know that you're not alone in your challenges. Exactly. And that sometimes we feel like we're so alone and that nobody else is going to understand what we're going through. But the truth is when we are vulnerable, like you just were, that's what connects us. So what makes us feel like we're not alone and be like, man, if he can get through it, I can get through it. And I'd love to know too, like, you were so young at this point, and during those times when the things that happen to us really like either shape us or shape us into something great or break us. If someone's listening right now, and whether it's a young kid that is in a similar situation and or parent that is battling with similar issues of divorce and custody and everything like that, is there any advice that you would give to both of those parties that might help them turn this this really difficult challenge into rocket fuel, especially in a healthy way. Because I think there's a big difference between the healthy and unhealthy version of rocket fuel.
Yeah. So first of all, this is for everyone, whether it's in industries, relationships, doesn't matter what age, you need to get a clear picture of what you want in your life, period. And if you don't know what it is, obviously you want to survive, right? That's the first thing everybody can say. I want to survive. I don't want to die. So, but that clear picture, what it gives you is a target to go for. And it also gives you a filter. I'm a binary guy. Like I like to go either towards or away from things, and it makes things simple. I talk about rocket fuel a lot, but I don't talk about rocket science. So I like simplicity. So I like to wake up in the morning and I like to go towards my ideal life with my thoughts, words, and actions. Anything that goes against it or does not serve it, I eliminate. So if you're young, old, going through something like difficult, great, whatever it is, just figure out what you want out of life. And don't let anybody else tell you what it is. Don't let anybody else limit what it is. And don't let your own disbelief limit it. Yeah. If you want to have doubt on anything, just doubt your limits.
Yes.
And that's the way I roll.
Let's say that again. That's like a tweetable right there.
Yeah. I don't doubt anything but my limits. So I'd encourage everybody else to do that as well. So we don't know what our limits really are, or if we have any limits. We don't know what our potential is. Yeah. So in life, and no matter what you're going through, just understand, what do I really want? Where do I really want to be? And then make every thought, word, and action go towards that. Also, the people around you, your environment, and the people around you, you need to make sure that you're really conscious of assessing those things to make sure that those all serve where you want to go. Yeah. That's not being like selfish. Well, it is selfish in a way, but it's not being self-centered. I don't know the negative part of it.
It's a good selfish.
It's a good selfish. Yeah. It's important selfish.
I mean, it's like that quote of you're in an airplane. You got to put the mask on you before you put it on your kid. I mean, you got to fill up your cup to give that. So I love that you're saying that, right? It's like you said right now, but also what you say on your what are you made of podcast, what you say in the book, on your social media. It's like, you're moving forward towards your mission, never behind. Now, when you're going forward, in your past experiences, I know you talk a lot about commitment and that you're fully committed with a lot of things. Can you share with our listeners maybe some times when you, it could be the first time you ever did this, or maybe the first couple times, but like an example or a story of when you fully committed to something along that mission. Like once you figured out your mission, like, hey, this is who I want to be, and these are the things that I need to get there. Like, how did you fully commit?
Well, I can tell you about my wife. When I saw her, let me tell you this quick story. So
Yes.
My best friend was renting a room off of me. And this is after we got out of college, and he had a girlfriend, and he'd bring her over all the time. And I told him, I said, hey man, if she's coming over here, she's got to bring some friends. And so she did. She brought some friends over once in a while, and I just didn't connect really with any of them. And then I came home from work one day, and my wife, Jennifer, she was sitting on my couch. And I'm like, please tell me that's one of her friends. Please tell me that's one of her friends and not like somebody trying to sell me something. And it was, because as soon as I saw her, like I just felt, and I know this is cliche and I know people have said things, but I believe in this stuff because I've experienced it. But I just knew she was the one. And I was in a phase there too of like kind of off of my intentions and my focus. And I was partying a lot, and it just wasn't it was a kind of a dark period of my life where I lost my focus on what I wanted to do. And again, I talk about that in the book, that period. But when I saw her right then, I knew I was committed. The funny thing though, long story short again, is that when I went to ask for her father's permission to marry her, he told me no.
Wow.
And this Monday will be 18 years.
Wow. So congrats.
So that, but again, I don't know why he said no. I don't know, I don't know. I just kept doing it anyway and pursuing it anyway. Yeah. And, it worked out, and we have 2 awesome kids. Great. Like our relationship couldn't even be any better. She pinched my ass. I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss.
Yeah.
When she was walking by me, like we do little things. It's just a great relationship, man.
Yeah. How long when you knew? And I'd love to talk about that too, because a lot of our listeners, we had that same thing for sure. It almost was even like, it seemed like we knew each other in a past life, but that's neither here nor there right now. But 2-part, I just want to kind of like continue real quick and then I'll let you go, babe, is because I feel like we believed that can exist for everybody. Like to have that like knowingness, like, wow. Because Rachel, she talks about this, and I'll let her say it, but like, she never used to believe that. Like, oh, yeah. You when you know, and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
like, what does that feel like?
Because I had never felt that before. All my relationships felt so unsure.
Yeah, and we're starting to hear from more guests and or people we're meeting that they have found that. And so one is almost like, just kind of maybe elaborating on that. And I'm just kind of curious, personally speaking, as to like when you first met her to when you asked your dad, how long was that?
Man, you know what? I don't know. Maybe
5 days?
year and a year and a half in that range.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
But once I finally we got engaged, like her and her mom the next day were planning it, and I was thinking like when you get engaged, you wait like a year and a half, something like that. I didn't know, and before you know it, like I knew 5 months I was getting married. Like I was like, what the heck? How did you? Why are we moving so fast here?
Yeah.
So but the thing about believing in that is you have to believe things before you see them.
Yeah.
So like Rachel didn't believe it. Well, of course she's not going to see it because she doesn't believe it. Like your eyes and your mind will not see things unless you believe in it or have faith in it.
Yes.
So faith is a very important thing. I know everybody hears these things, but faith is so powerful. It is the builder and creator of everything. When you have a thought and you have faith in that, anything can happen. But when you have fear or doubt, it's the death of things. It kills things. So when you don't believe in something, of course you're not going to see it. Yeah. And those that don't believe in what I just said aren't going to see it in their lives either. Yeah. They have to just be open to it and accept it and start believing it. And then they'll start seeing wonderful things. And by the way, when you start doing it and you start seeing the results, it's very important because as we mentioned earlier, words matter. You can't be saying, oh man, that's so amazing. Wow. You can't do that because what you're telling yourself is that you can't believe what just happened. And for the future, for anything that's going to happen, it's going to limit those gifts that can be given to you. So it's very important to be like, yes, or of course that happened.
Yes.
And believe in the process of things. So
the expectancy. No, I love that you're talking about this because I remember hearing you say something on an interview that you did of, you basically said, I believe that there would be a lot more miraculous things that would happen in people's lives if they actually believed that it was possible. And that we a lot of times limit the amazing experiences that we could experience because we just don't believe that it's actually possible. And not just like, I think there's a big difference between, I'd love to get your take on this, that there's like a ladder of like, first there's like, you have hope. And that's like ground floor, right? You can like hope something's possible, but there's still like some doubt in there. Then there's like a faith. And it's like a little bit stronger. And then there's like, no, I believe that can happen. Like I really believe that. And then there's like a knowing. Like I just know, I expect that's going to happen. And when you can get to that knowing, then it's just like things appear. And it's not like, because like you said, if you're being like, oh, I can't believe that happened, that's impossible. Even Matthew McConaughey talks about that of like, we need to stop saying like, oh, that's impossible or unbelievable. He's like, no, it happened. It's believable.
Yeah. Or it's even like the quote that we talk about a lot, Rachel and I forget who said this, but it's like miracles are all around us. It's just a matter of if we're open to seeing them. And I think it speaks to that, to that belief. And I mean, even when you think about the placebo effect, right? Like the placebo effect, the fact that you have studies out there for people listening and you got one person actually getting the drug and you got the other person in the other room not getting the drug, it's a sugar pill.
Yeah. And
the fact that most times the placebo ends up working when they're trying to introduce new drugs. And it's like 40%, I believe.
Yeah, it's
that 40%, right? Taking a sugar pill and then they actually get cured or healed from whatever they have from a sugar pill. But it speaks to the belief, right?
And I would love for me, like, real quick, just because I think people are listening right now and they're like, guys, okay, like I have to believe, but like my experiences don't align with what you're talking about. What advice would you give to somebody who wants to believe, who wants to be able to shift in their identity to be a person who believes that miraculous things can happen? How can they get to that point? Going from being a person that doesn't really believe in a lot of stuff to someone that does.
Proximity to people that are doing it. And even if you cannot get close to someone, immerse yourself in their content as a mentor from afar.
Yeah.
You know, that's the best way to do it, because you can see the results, and the people that have had success will tell you about their success. They'll tell you how they did it. And so for me, it's that, but really, again, getting clear on what you want. And then another C word, commitment. Commitment is so important that people use it too loosely. Commitment is burn the ships commitment is what I'm talking about. You know, it's very difficult to be 100% committed because we're human. We're going to have times where we're not. You just got to get back on track as fast as possible. But my favorite word now, I found this word in a book recently, was inexorable, which means unable to be stopped or unyielding. Inexorable is what you have to be once you find out your clear picture. And then the following thing is consistency. Boring, old consistency. Because people they're not consistent. They'll try something, it doesn't work, and then they'll just, that doesn't work. And of course they're not going to see results. But when you go through the boring steps of consistency, even when you don't feel like it, even when it's difficult, then you start seeing I hate to say the magic happen, but you start seeing the results. You start seeing the results that are supposed to come. And I have a formula I talk about all the time too, is your commitments are greater than your feelings. Because when your feelings you don't feel like it, your commitments come first. And so that's so important to understand. And the way to get 100% participation from yourself, from going towards these miracles, is to do it when you don't feel like it, and do it when it's hard, because you know you're good on the other times.
I think a lot of people are looking for just like, you know, and it's this thing of good habits versus bad habits, right? Like bad habits are instant gratification, and good habits, like good things take time. Just like if you're going to work out, right? Like you just don't work out and the next week you got raging biceps. Like, you know, those take time. So it's almost like...
I thought I did, you know?
I mean, maybe.
Just kidding.
But yeah, it's like, you are what you repeatedly do. So I'm glad that we're talking about commitment and mission, because there's a lot of people pivoting right now. And I feel like whether they're pivoting in their relationships, in their business, you talk a lot about thrust is a must. And I love that aspect, right? And so let's dive deeper on that. Can you elaborate on that for our listeners?
Yeah, thrust is a must is a saying I came up with, because I'm always thinking about moving fast and in like a forceful manner towards my goals in life. Because one, I don't want anybody to catch me and try to stop me. I feel like I'm always running away from something, like not in a bad way, but in a good way. Like anything that could stop me, I want to stay ahead of it. And also, the more time you add, the more you fuel fear. You can starve fear by taking the time out of it. And so thrust is a must means to me that I got to do it before fear gets in and creeps in. So if I have an idea, I act on it as fast as possible. We got to move. Anybody that's successful, I've witnessed some crazy stuff lately that I say crazy because it's just like, I can't believe how fast this works. But
you can believe it though. You can.
Well, no, but I mean, you wouldn't think like, I get that. But what I'm saying is that you see these super successful people and the decisions that they make that are billion-dollar decisions, make them like that. That's why I say that. Like to me, like you think when just from our position, a lot of times we watch, it must go through a lot of deliberation and thought and all this. And that's not the case. The most successful people make decisions like that. So thrust is a must came from that. Plus it has sexual connotation, which sells. You know,
we'll have to do a comedic skit about
we should absolutely do
that.
Thrust is a must, babe.
Yeah.
Well, super awesome. If you're listening to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio with the one and only Mikey C-roc. We are getting into a really fun segment of the show called Rapid Fire. So it's just fill in the blank, right? So these are quick answers, quick questions. So you can't think about it. It's got to be gut reactions, just like we were talking about, those quick decisions.
Yeah, fill in the blank.
Okay, here we go. I believe in...
Oh, shoot. Limitless potential.
Ooh, I love that.
Love it.
Kind.
It's all good. I mean, you can take a few seconds to marinate. You can take a few seconds.
Love heals. Say that.
Yeah.
Love heals.
Love that.
Beautiful.
Okay, the person that you've wanted to make the most proud is?
You know, I would say myself.
Love that.
Love that. I am ready to forgive
everyone.
Oh, it's good.
Beautiful.
So good.
Well, that is the rapid fire segment of the show, guys. We're speaking with C-roc here at Relationship Renegades, and we were just talking about thrust is a must and how that came from these billionaire mindsets of how they make decisions actually in a quick minute, quick second, and they know
just
what they
like
want.
You just did right there.
Yeah, and so that's interesting though, just to kind of like go back into that a little bit before moving forward. Where do you think that comes from, right? Because they could have these big companies, and maybe it's a failing forward, maybe it's a few things, but in your mindset, what do you think? Like, how can someone listening right now get to that point where they're so decisive on what needs to get done?
It's really simple when you have your mission, your clear mission, your core purpose, your core mission. See, mine is all people are unstoppable to live in the life of their dreams. So when something comes my way, does it serve it or doesn't? Bang, decision made. It's not that hard once you do that. It's that binary thing I talked about earlier. That's where it comes down to. And so like when I'm talking about like my mentor, Grant Cardone, for example, I watch him, like I study him. People make fun of me because I'm so like astute of what's going on and watching. And I see the decisions that he makes, and his thing is to reach 7 billion people with his message of 10X. And I see the decisions he makes, and I see how quick he makes them. And then he cleans up later on, and he's got people on his team that help clean up things later on. But he makes a decision quick of what he wants to do, and it's just amazing to watch. And so if he can do it, I look at it and I'm like, if he can do it, I can do it, and everybody should do it.
And that speaks to like go ahead.
No, but it just comes down to being so committed to your core purpose that you can make decisions quick because it's either a yes or no, going towards or away, building or destroying.
How can someone that feels confused right now on their core mission, what if they're in a situation where they're like, gosh, I just don't like my life right now. Like I've worked so hard to get to this place and I don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel happy. I feel lost. I feel stuck. I feel confused. What advice would you give that could help somebody find their mission, their purpose, something that lights them up, that they can get so clear on so that they can make those kind of very important decisions quickly?
Confused people are a big problem in this world. And confused people come from people that don't have the right information. So you're never stuck somewhere. If you're in a job right now or in a position, a relationship, no one is stuck. It's just a story you're telling yourself. And if you believe it, then you become stuck. But again, it's the thoughts and words that you say will create your reality. So you can start thinking that, I'm not stuck here. I can do what I want. And here's what I want. And now I got to make every action, word, thought, everything go towards what I want. It's that simple. It's not any more difficult than that. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be easy road. It's not going to be, a situation where you're not going to have to make sacrifices. You're going to have to figure out things that you may have to give up and do without, but you're not stuck. A couple problems here. Most people are worried about what other people think. And so they're worried about filing bankruptcy or not paying their bills because if somebody finds out what they'll think of you. And if nobody found out about you, besides like not want to screw anybody over, but if you tried your hardest and then you had to file bankruptcy, but nobody ever found out about it, except for the creditors, but you don't even know who they are. And you tried your best, but you had it. Would it really be a big deal?
Yeah, right.
Right. So that's one thing. People care about too much of what other people think. And the other thing is people don't want to give up things. So if you feel stuck in a job, let's say, and you want to try a different job, but in doing that, you may have some time where you have to go without pay, but you don't want to give up paying your bills or paying your house or paying your entertainment expenses or whatever you might spend money on. You don't want to give that stuff up. And that's really what it comes down to. It's just that you don't want to give something up or sacrifice something. So it's just something that you have to get clear on whether you want it and what's more important to you.
Yeah, especially in relationships. I feel like that was my pattern. I didn't want to hurt people, and it ended up in me torturing both myself and the other person. And it's terrible. And I believed that I was stuck. I believed those patterns. And like you said, I stayed stuck until it finally got so effing bad that like I had, you know what I mean? It's terrible.
I don't believe it. Emilio, do you believe that she was able to torture anybody?
Oh,
nice
yeah.
Okay. Okay, you believe it. I don't know. I don't know.
I have grown a lot, Mike, but like I own my past. Not like you. I love the quote that you talked about. Like your past is use it for fuel, not for like regret. I don't regret it. It made me who I am. It made me be able to appreciate him and myself and my strength more than I ever thought that I could. So I do believe that my past is a superpower. Yeah. And I have a level of gratitude and appreciation that is just next level because of it, because I went through so much pain, because I had to like finally hit rock bottom to the point where I was like, man, I have to change. And I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that.
And I love that you say that it's not as a regret. Like, it's really like just loving those chapters. I mean, like, similar to what you had said earlier about, I had a dark past in a lot of ways, and said do a lot of drugs and drinking, a lot of toxic environments and habits and toxic people, etc. And you know, I had to finally come to terms of like accepting who I was, or who, you know, what I did, and just all of it, and look the man in the mirror more than ever, right? And then just decide to make those changes and look forward, like you talk about. And so, I think there's a lot of people that may be in that place where they're either coming from the darkness, still in the darkness, for lack of a better word, and it's okay, right? Like, that's just the hero's journey. Like, you got to go deep into the abyss to learn the lessons, to then ascend, right? To then to like feel your way up. And if you guys are just listening right now, you're tuning into Relationship Renegades with C-roc, and to kind of sum up a lot of things that we talked about here, I know it started with this idea of, you know, billionaires' mindsets about how they make decisions quickly, thrust being a must, really. And I think what I love about that is the momentum that gives. And this idea of shoot, ready, aim. Right? And it's like I love how you talk about like they just do it because it's value aligned, if you will. And then it's like, and then just keep shooting if it's value aligned, and then, you know, have that team to clean up. So I love that. And unless you want to take this somewhere else, babe, I wanted to talk about maybe the team too, and how to really inspire maybe the team and have relationships with the team.
Relationships are everything. But kind of when he talked about the hero's journey, I believe you have a question that you ask yourself every day, every morning. What is that question?
Whose hero can I be today? How can I be the most valuable player in anything I do? Those are the things I go through.
Yeah. Rule number 6, right?
Rule number 6.
Woo! Dang, how did I know that? What?
And to anybody listening,
I don't know that number. That's pretty good, man.
It's that social media, C-roc.
There you go. Yeah, but to anybody listening, I just, we challenge you to try that. I think asking powerful questions like that every day, have it on your phone, have it on your bathroom mirror, like have reminders that put you in a state of service, of helping others, of how can I be valuable? How can I be a hero to somebody today? Because that will change the way you show up in your relationships. I know I do the same practice, and it changed my life. And moving into kind of even
I do want to say something with that too, because I love that question so much. Whose hero can I be today? Because I think people are wrapped around in the ego all the time, like me, how can I get this and this and that? And I think when you put, the focus on a higher kind of force, if you will, God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it, but just kind of like something bigger than you, right? Like, where did that come from you? Like, where did you decide to have that as your question? Like, where is that inspired from?
I think that really from a young age, my mom told me about God, and she used to pray with me when I was a kid. And from there, I always just had a relationship with a higher power. And, then I started to realize what I was given. And I believe in a creator that's all powerful. And I believe that we were put here with unlimited potential in our spirit, our intuition, our minds. And it's very important to me that to honor that create, like somebody gave you something, like they let's say they gave you food and you just threw it on the ground. And, you didn't use it, you didn't do anything with it, and they gave it to you. That's like a slap in their face. So to me, with what you've been given, you got to take it and use it to max capacity. And we don't always do that. And I know we're human, we're not going to always do that, but we have to strive towards it. And to me, that's important. And so to me, it comes down to an obligation to my creator, for what I believe in, to achieve and go after my potential. By the way, we don't know what our potential is. Like I always talk about going up a mountain, and there's clouds halfway up the mountain, or maybe 3/4. I don't even know how far up the mountain it is, but you see clouds and you can't see the top. you're just going and going and going. You're like, I don't know where the top of this mountain is, but I got to keep going to get to the top. And, the view keeps getting better, by the way, as you keep going up.
I love that.
And you're like, I can't imagine this getting any better, but I keep going and it keeps getting better. So to me, I forget what your question was, but really it just came from, I guess, my mom instilling that in me, and then me seeing so many miracles that have happened around me, that I have no other choice than to believe in a higher power that's fueling all of us.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that.
So powerful. Yeah, and I think the belief in that, the understanding of like, if you're alive, if you're breathing, if you can walk or run or play or dance or hug someone or be alive in any capacity, like what a freaking gift that I too just think sometimes it can get easy in our fast-paced society to take so many things for granted. When you live in a digital world and there's a lot of opportunities to compare, what you don't have to what you do have. But I think a mutual friend talks about this a lot, Amberly Lago, about how gratitude can be alchemy, can turn something into what you don't have into what you do have. And I love that you talked about that, of just, and to anybody listening, like how can you really get so grateful just for the gift of life and all that you have to use it to your max potential. So powerful.
Well, when you first wake up in the morning, try this. First thing say, just start it tomorrow. Thank you. And then what I do is I actually look at my hands and wiggle my fingers and toes. Like, it might sound corny, but I actually do that. And I'm like, wow, man, how many times we go throughout our day, we don't even look at our hands or our feet and notice them, or our legs.
Yes.
Like, and I had Travis Mills on the other day, and he a bomb went off in Afghanistan, and he lost all 4 of his limbs. And I saw him on I didn't see him, but I heard him on Clubhouse talking the other day. And I was like, dude, you don't understand how powerful you being here is, because every day I talk about the fact that I look at my fingers, I look at my toes, I look at all these things, and I see that I have these. And then here you're coming in here so grateful that you're alive and you don't have those things. So it's just amazing. And but if you do that, it makes everything better. It eliminates everything to complain about.
Yes. And it's unfortunate that we have to experience some crazy life event like that to then miss something, whether it's a limb or a person, place, or thing. It's like, let's be proactive, right? To be able to like do that now and shift our mindsets.
Proactive gratitude.
Before we jump into learning about what C-roc's Renegade Moment is, stay tuned, because we're going to be talking about how complacency can really stop us from so much and not really thrusting forward in our life and our mission and our business, but also how to be a leader and a whole lot more. So stay tuned here in a second. But before we go to the Renegade Moment, is there any other things regarding what we've been talking about?
I'm really excited to get into the Renegade Moment, because this is always usually my favorite part of the show, is really just understanding from you, what is your renegade moment? That moment where you got sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you said, you know what, I'm going to choose differently. We call this relationship renegades for a reason, because part of being a renegade is exactly that, that moment where I'm like, I'm done with the status quo. I'm done with doing these old patterns and habits I used to do. I'm done with being stuck, and I'm going to change some shit up. What was that moment for you?
Yeah, back in 2017, I started feeling this feeling that I was playing too small. And I had a mortgage company that I was running with my friends. We did good, but we got kind of complacent. Money was good. But we started putting up with bull crap from producers that had bad attitudes. And I was coming home and it was toxic. And I'd come home and just be miserable. And the owner of that company started screwing us over with money, and it just was a bad situation. So we had to pick up and move that group of people, my core 20-some employees, to a new company. But during that phase, I was like, I'm playing too small here. Like, I'm working with people. One, we need to build a better culture. One, we got to get that straight. But I was playing too small of a game. I'm just focused on this group here instead of, and how can I get known locally in our local market, instead of saying, wait a minute, let me get known by everybody in the United States. Well, then that wasn't big enough. And I just kept going, okay, how about globally? Well, how about if there's aliens, get known by aliens, because then I can impact people, right? And you can't talk about aliens now. It's starting to get weird now.
Hey, relationships even with aliens. Hey, man, we're dimensional beings here.
But if you do that, the smaller things take care of themselves. Yeah. So as far as a Renegade Moment, that moment in 17, I had no idea how I was going to do it. I messaged one of my buddies that I knew was a speaker, and he used to have events. And I said, man, I'm thinking about that. I need to start speaking and get known. And he goes, Just grow your following. That's the message I got back from him. Grow your following in a social media, like a Facebook message. And I'm like, what? I thought he was going to say, hey, I'll mentor you. Come talk to me. Let's set up a call. He said, grow your following. So I took that as a sign that I need to grow my following.
Yes.
I went nuts. Like I got obsessed, and then I ran into Grant Cardone, and I was just like, look, I'm gonna go nuts with this and just get this message out to people of resiliency, which that's not even a powerful enough word. The rocket fuel concept, by the way, what I wrote the book about was to turn all setbacks, letdowns, disadvantages, toxicity, things that you did screw up yourself, store it all in your fuel tank where you can convert it into fuel instead of your trunk where most people carry it, where it weighs you down. And if you convert it into rocket fuel, I say that because I want to go in outer space away from gravitational pull, which is all the negative stuff. And so at that moment, that's really when I decided that I need to go on this mission. This is such a powerful tool that I need to get everybody aware of it. And it's just reframed resiliency thing, but with a lot more power behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
When you think about doing, is there an actual process that you talk to your coaches, your listeners, just anything in terms of, because I can envision that, right? Like, is it a visualization exercise where you're thinking about all the different things and then like letting that like burn inside you to kind of lift off? Like, what are some, how do you kind of like tools. Maybe some practical tools as to like how to do that?
I don't like to, like I said, complicate things. So
it's
very simple. Like anything that comes your way is fuel for you. Whether it's good, because it's good, it's going to motivate you, give you confidence. If it's considered bad, you just put it in that tank and convert it into fuel. So it's not like
it's a mindset.
It's a proactive. Yes, it's a mindset, but it's a proactive approach, because if you're in close proximity to an adversity, there's more confusion, chaos, emotions, and you're not going to see it as much. So if you're going through bad times in a relationship or at work or whatever, it's very difficult to understand this concept. They're going to be like, yeah, whatever. So at that moment, the only thing people need at that moment, the close proximity to adversity, is hope. Because they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So you have to get that picture painted that, hey, you're not going to quit. It's going to get better. Don't trust your emotions right now, and just talk them through that. But the proactive approach of rocket fuel is ahead of time is knowing that no matter what comes your way, you're going to turn it into fuel. I'll give you an example. Like I want to turn this book into a movie. I think that my life story, people will watch, because especially what's going to happen here very soon. And I just was talking to my wife about it, and this is just between me and her, right? And she said, "Well, it sounds more like, are you trying to do a Lifetime movie?" Now, why did she say that? She's very supportive most of the time. I don't know why that came out of her. But maybe she knows that like I'll use that and say, oh yeah, well, I'll show you Lifetime. Nothing against Lifetime for those who make Lifetime movies. And
I've done a couple Lifetime movies. It's
okay. But she was like it was more of a dig, and I was just like, hold up. Now I wasn't really going to do a movie, but now I'm going to.
Yeah. So she just knows you so well.
And then a docu-series, and then a freaking,
Yeah. I mean, and I just take everything like that and say, okay, you're going to get it now. Watch this.
Yeah, I love that.
So that's what it's all about. It's really just being stubborn and going after the right things.
Yeah. And speaking about relationships, I know you said it's coming up on 18 years now with your wife, which is so incredible.
Yeah, congrats.
I would love to know, I'm sure in those 18 years, it's just been perfect and no challenges whatsoever. But no, really, I think what we love talking about is obviously, how you overcame those challenges together. Can you speak on maybe one of the most challenging things you guys went through as a couple, and how you got through them, how you converted, like literally converted that setback into rocket fuel?
Yep.
Yeah, well, one thing, her grandparents, see, I came from a divorced family. Her parents are still together. Her grandparents had been married, and her grandmother actually just passed away last year, but they were married for, I don't even know, man, 70-some years. Like he's turning 93 today, her grandfather actually. But they were together for so long, and it was just like so cute to see. They always hold hands when they're together, and all that. We always watch that, and that was, that to us, I guess, is kind of the goal. Like we want to get to that point at some point. So remember, when you have your core purpose or core mission, which can be different things for different things, you're going towards that or away from it. So the decisions we would try to make would always be, okay, no matter what, we're going here. If you're fighting, or if we're having a tough time, or whatever the case is, we understand that at the end of the day, we're still going to go that direction. So whatever we do from this conflict has to resolve and go in that direction, not this direction. And so that's one thing. But, there's been times where like work got to me and I was just a miserable jerk, or lack of patience. Or when you have kids start taking your attention and focus and they don't, my kids are stubborn, just like me, and they don't go for an answer and it wears on you.
Yeah.
So it's just, that's the kind of stuff I think the main things. But what I did learn, one of the main lessons I learned is that I need to do whatever I can to one, check myself first before, if I have a problem with something or if I'm agitated, I look inside and say, okay, what am I doing to cause this? I guess it really comes down to 100% responsibility. Like you take all responsibility for everything.
Yeah.
And there's no blame game that happens at that point. You're not waiting and procrastinating on anything, and it just makes things better. So.
Yeah, I love that. Yes. I mean, I know you talk about that a lot. Like wherever we are in life right now, it's our fault, right? Like you talk about that a lot. I think you're saying that now, and it's definitely an ethos of Relationship Renegades. Like it's always the man in the mirror or the woman in the mirror.
Yeah.
And appreciate you sharing that. What I love for people, we're talking about so many great things. And if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio, where we're talking with C-roc. What are you made of? Hopefully you guys can think about that question as we continue this conversation, and maybe we can get into that as well. But one thing that I think just keeps rising up within me is this idea of dreaming bigger. And I think a lot of us, including myself, which is why I'm bringing it up, is to always do that. And so for me, in my moment, because we just like to make this like raw and real all the time, like I know that I always need to dream bigger. You talked about Grant Cardone or any mentor and how that can even push you, because obviously by doing that, you can dream bigger that way as well. I've always struggled with that, finding mentors. And I did for the very first time in my life. I'm 35 now. And I think my first mentor ever, when I decided to finally ask for help, because I always done things when I was a little kid. We have similar pasts. And I think it was back in 2016 when I first asked, and it was fantastic. I was in this men's retreat thing and it broke down, and I asked, and it was incredible. And then I had that mentor for about a year and a half. And then I would say just it kind of expired on both sides. And so now I'm in the process of asking for or looking for the right mentors in my life. Do you have a way of going about finding the right mentor, nurturing the right relationship, and just everything that goes along with mentorship? I think more people do need mentors. And what would be your advice for that?
Well, what happened with me, my stepfather, George, who passed away in 2019 suddenly of a heart attack, he was my mentor in many ways of how to be a man, how to be committed, how to be reliable, how to treat a lady. He wasn't really good with money, but he was good with a little bit of money. He could stretch it a long way, but he wasn't good at getting money. But when he passed away, I felt like, man, I'm not ready to just take on the world by myself. I need to figure some things out. And so my brother was reading the 10X rule, and he said, Mike, you got to read this book. This guy sounds just like you. Now, I've rarely heard of Grant, maybe in passing. I didn't really know who he was. And so I decided to read the book. And when I read the book, what I realized, and this will answer your question, is I realized, like, wait a minute, I can relate to this guy. He's been kind of where I've been before. He's now going on a path of where I want to go. And at this time, I might as well learn from what he's done and see and basically find the blueprint and follow it. And so I read the book, but when I read the book, I'm like, holy cow, this guy's talking to me. That's the feeling I got. And also I had an animal inside of me. I've always had this thing inside of me that like, I want to just attack and go and go and go. And I was kind of like introverted in a way because of all the bad things that happened to me over a period of time. And so it gave me validation to go forward. So that feeling, what I'm telling you now is that look for that feeling that when you read somebody's books, hear them speak or spend time with them, that they give you validation to live life and go after what you want. And that's what Grant did for me. And so then from there, the best thing to do, obviously you can pay people to coach and pay people for access and all that, or pay people for their programs. But what I started to do is when I did that, I started to say, okay, anything I do, I need to take and have great success with it. It is my duty, my responsibility to make that person look good now. And that validates my decision, right? So 100% responsibility things that you go through. Now, the other thing is, then I started thinking, this is my scenario. This is the only thing I can teach from is my experience. I started thinking like, what if there was a way? I want to help people that are my level and below me and maybe just a little bit above me. But what if there was a way to help somebody that's super successful and help them elevate beyond what they even thought was possible? And I could be the one to do that. Now, how the heck am I going to do that? I don't know. But what if I did? And how could I? So that's how you start thinking bigger. You start thinking about just something that's just beyond. Like, there's no way that could happen, right? But then you start thinking, what if? And as soon as you switch from there's no way that could happen to what if, everything starts to change, man. And there's opportunities that you can make big impacts, not just in your life, but people that are well above, and I hate to say above, but way beyond where you are right now, further on their journey, that you can elevate them. And what happens to you when you do that? That's the amazing thing. So I hope I answered your question there, but that's basically the experience that I'm going through right now. And I'm just trying to look for ways that the people that have helped me, how can I help them more than just giving them money?
Yeah, I love that so much. And, for everyone listening, I think really take that to heart, because whether it's in business or relationships, just the people that we surround ourselves with, even the content that we watch, the people we actually hang out with, the books that we read, literally programs your reality and what you believe is possible or not possible. So be super careful about who that is. And I think choosing mentors and choosing those people that you're going to dive all into their content, to be very particular about that. And a mentor of mine actually taught me that same principle of, he's like, Rach, because I got so confused. We talk about, I think I agree with you that a big problem we have in the world today is a lot of people are just really confused. It's hard to filter out so much information. And I felt that way. And I was just like, gosh, getting all this advice from different people, and I don't know what to listen to and what not to listen to. And he said a very similar thing that you did. I'm just reiterating what you talked about. He's like, Rach, only listen to the people that have created the reality that you want to create for yourself. That, period. He's like, if they don't resonate with where you've been, overcome stuff that you've gone through, and created something that you want to create, a life like relationship, finance, business, spirituality,
100%,
all areas of life, then you have to not listen, because they haven't done it. So anyways, I just really resonate with that. And for people listening, take that
not only that, hold on. So you can also not listen to so many people. You got to pick one, maybe two people. And or different people in different areas of your life. But for me, I get confused too when I hear too many people go and they'll go to say a coach or something and say, hey, what do you think of this? And then they'll go to another person and say, hey, he told me this. What do you think of this? And then what do you think of this? And then they go down the line because they don't want to make a decision. I stick with Grant, and then people that in his camp is who I use as my mentor. And it's worked. So good. So find your camp and stay there, you know, because I think, especially when we're talking about relationships, how often does that happen, right? I know in my experiences, it's always should I be with this person? And then you get advice from someone and they're like, well, what do you think about that one? What do you think? And before you know, you've asked 20 people that all have different opinions, and then you can't even hear your own voice anymore. So
and we hope that everybody can just take some time to reflect, put some pen to paper, journal, be still, and just kind of ask those questions and see what comes up, and to find your camp. And by the way, we keep speaking about your mentor, Grant Cardone, and just shout out to Grant and Elena for everything they've created. They're beautiful people inside and out, who also have a lot of tremendous faith. We've talked about that, and I think that's just so important. So shout out to them for all the work that they've done as well. Well, we're coming to our third segment, C-roc.
Wrap up of the show.
If we want to, babe, love, would you like to?
So the third and final segment, kind of wrap up of the show, is just a favorite find. We love to leave people with, obviously the things that you've read, listened to, experienced have helped create this incredible resiliency and courage and beautiful person that you are. So anything that has really helped you. I do think.
She didn't say, hey, relax. She didn't say handsome.
I said a beautiful human.
Just kidding.
Trust and jealousy. That's a whole other topic. But anything that you would recommend. It could be a book, a poem, a movie, a travel experience, anything that has really impacted your life that you want to share with people.
Favorite finds.
Yeah, a couple things. One, right now I'm really hard into this book and a couple other ones. U Squared. I don't know if you've heard of this.
Oh, cool. No.
Look how little this book is.
Oh, yeah.
I plan on reading this over and over and over again and studying it, not just reading it, because sometimes big books you don't study.
Yeah.
You read through them, you're like, oh, I finished the book. But this is something that's only, I don't know, maybe 38 pages long.
Yeah.
So I'm going to study this, but the Price Pritchett is the author, and it's called U Squared, U with a little 2. It's phenomenal. It talks about quantum leaps.
And for those who are just listening, it's the size of my thumbnail.
Yeah.
No, it's very small.
I love those kind of books too.
Yeah, and when you're talking about quantum leaps, a lot of people think that the only way to go somewhere is little incremental steps, which is fine. Don't get me wrong, because you can get overwhelmed and you want to take one bite at a time, right? But don't close your mind off to the possibilities that things can come in big ways and fast. And so that's what it talks about. I love it. I started thinking about, instead of just going after onesie twosies, how can I go after multiples of things in my life?
Yeah.
I love that.
And not just money. I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about money. I'm talking about everything though.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say to that question there.
So
expanding
powerful.
the mind and the horizon.
And to definitely check out his book, C-Roc's book, Rocket Fuel.
Yeah, show that up, brother.
I mean, yes, so much just gold in there. Absolutely. Everyone check it out. Where's the best place that people can find you, connect with you, get your book, ask you questions?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram and Clubhouse and LinkedIn. Obviously, those are the places that I hang out the most. But MikeC-roc.com/book. If you go there, you can get the book, MikeC-roc.com/book. And anybody that buys 5 books, because I want you to give them away and spread the word. But anybody that buys 5 and you DM me and show me you bought 5, I'll send a signed copy and buy one for you. Signed, so you can keep that one and give 5 away.
Boom.
Oh, so cool.
Love it.
I love that. Always giving back. Always giving back. Mike, it's been so incredible to have you on the show. We just celebrate you. We honor you. Thank you for being so brave. Thank you for being a renegade in your life and choosing differently, because you could have chosen the same. You could have stayed stuck. You could have believed in your limitations and you didn't. Yeah. And it's so incredible to see what you've built because of that. And let's talk about making it a movie. You know, I mean, that's my world.
Yeah, that is your world. And
those are the stories I want to tell. Those are the stories I want to tell of especially little kids that were able to overcome so much and create so much in their life, because I think every little kid that's going through something needs to see that if they can do it, I can do it, to have that little bit of hope. Yeah. So powerful.
I believe that, we have a soul's mission, if you will, while we're on earth. And we hope that everybody finds that and then has the feel to go forward, like you talked about, and to keep looking forward and not back. And so thank you for finding yours and impacting as many people. And if we can be any help, however we can help and serve in your mission, that's what Relationship Renegades community is all about.
Yes.
And so whether it's now or later, we're here for you, brother. Thank you again.
Yeah,
and,
any final words. Leave the audience
right.
with I want a hype up. I want to amp up. C-Roc, I'm not doing good. I'm not feeling good. I'm in a shitty relationship. I have a shitty job. Help motivate me out of this stuck feeling that I'm in.
Here it is.
First of all, thank you very much, Rachel, Emilio. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the relationship we've started, and I look forward to developing that for sure. Thank you so much, and for the opportunity to be here. But what I will tell you is that everything that comes your way is fuel for you. Remember that right now. Make the decision that I'm not stopping. I'm going to go towards my ideal life. Nothing's stopping me. Be inexorable, which that's my favorite word. Write that down. Inexorable. Start using that word, and use everything that comes your way as rocket fuel for your future, and become unstoppable. That's what I'll leave you with. But there's nothing else to it. Very simple.
I love it. I love it.
Mic drop.
Decisiveness, that identity shift. Let's go.
Yeah. Everybody, we love you. Thank you. You have been listening to Relationship Renegades on Fun for Life Radio. We are out.
See you guys next time.